In the preserved cuneiform of Mesopotamia, especially the Babylonian Enuma Elish, Tiamat is not merely a goddess, but the embodiment of the primordial saltwater sea, the chaos before all form. She is the infinite ocean before shores, the unbounded womb from which all existence emerges. Alongside her moves Apsu, the fresh waters, the springs of potential. Together they mingle in the eternal dance, and from their union, the first heavenly court arises. Lamu, guardian of silt and fertile waters, depicted as a bearded warrior, whose body is marked by flowing wave patterns. In other mythologies, he mirrors the Vedic Prajapati, a primordial progenitor. Lahamu, twin to Lamu, she personifies the richness of sediment that allows life to root and grow. She finds echoes in Egyptian Tefnut, the goddess of moisture and fertility. Inshar, the sky horizon stretching vast above, embodying order and the cosmic law that governs the upper realms. He parallels the Vedic Varuna, the guardian of the cosmic ocean and moral law. Kisha, the earth horizon stable and grounded, the great plain upon which creation takes form. She resonates with the Mesoamerican Tonantzin, the Earth Mother. These beings form the first architecture of reality, each holding dominion over a cosmic layer. Tiamat's essence is paradoxical, womb and destroyer. In the earliest age, she nurtures her children in the stillness of the deep. But when the younger gods grow unruly, their voices breaking the sacred quiet, Apsu plots to end them. Ea, Enki, cunning and swift, slays Apsu, turning his body into the firmament for new creation. Grief twists into fury within Tiamat's heart. She takes her war form, a cosmic serpent dragon whose scales shimmer like abyssal coral and volcanic glass. Her voice rolls across worlds.
You have slain my consort. You have disturbed the womb of the deep. Rise, my children, let us avenge him. From my belly shall come your weapons, and from my breath the storms that drive them.
From her own essence, Tiamat creates a host of war beasts. Mushussu serpent, long-bodied dragons with lion forelimbs and eagle talons, their breath carrying poison that could unravel the soul's pattern. Bashmu, horned serpents with scales reflecting starlight, designed to coil around ships and crush them in the vacuum. Storm demons, sentient clouds of plasma lightning, bound into the shape of warriors with eyes like meteors. Scorpion men, giants whose lower halves are armored arachnid bodies carrying venomous spears. Sea-Hounds, amphibious predators with triple jaws, bred to hunt the scent of fear through air or water. She crowns Kingu as her champion, placing in his hands the tablet of destinies, granting him mastery over fate itself. Interestingly, the story of an amphibian queen named Tiamat's story echoes across civilizations. In Hindu Vedic lore, she mirrors Varuna, guardian of the cosmic ocean, and Ananta Shesha, the endless serpent on which Vishnu rests between creations. In Egyptian cosmology, she resembles Nut, the Sky Mother, whose body forms the arch of creation, and Apophis, the chaos serpent threatening the order of Ra's journey. Among the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl, the monstrous sea crocodile, is dismembered to form the earth and heavens. In Norse myth, the frost giant Ymir, slain by Odin and whose body becomes the world, reflects the same theme. Each culture remembers her differently, some as the mother of all, others as the monstrous embodiment of chaos, yet always tied to the first waters from which reality springs. The ancient astronaut interpretation. To the temple priests, this wasn't allegory but history. In ancient astronaut traditions, Tiamat is remembered as the consciousness and sovereign of a living oceanic planet orbiting between Mars and Jupiter. Seen from space, Her surface was a swirl of deep indigo seas, gleaming turquoise shallows, and vast coral continents lit by auroras. Her world was home to multiple civilizations, crystal cities rising from lagoons, coral data vaults holding genetic blueprints, and kelp forests that served as stargates, bioengineered to fold space. Her closest allies were the Nommos of Sirius B, an amphibious, feline-eyed race standing 8 to 10 feet tall. Their skin shimmered with pearlescent blues and greens, and their voices were layered harmonic tones capable of influencing water structure at a molecular level. As keepers of the deep star libraries, they archived the DNA of countless species, weaving it into Tiamat's oceans. Their alliance with Tiamat was both cultural and genetic. Some even say the Nommos were her direct descendants. In the Enuma Elish, the clash of gods becomes, in the ancient astronaut interpretation, the final act of a high civilization war. Tiamat's fleets, organic leviathan ships grown in her oceans and armored in living crystal, moved against Marduk's armada of metallic storm engine warships. His net may have been a gravitic containment field, his evil wind a directed plasma storm designed to breach planetary defenses. The last battle unfolds as a clash of worlds. Marduk's chariot ship pierces the veils of Tiamat's oceanic atmosphere, the sky boiling into vapor as his wind weapons churn her tides into walls of water hundreds of miles high. From the deep, the Nommos sing their war songs, low, resonant tones like whale calls magnified through the cosmos, straining to throw his trajectory off course. Then Tiamat herself rises from the abyss, miles of serpentine body coiling around her planet's horizon, scales glinting like wet obsidian, eyes burning with bioluminescent gold. Marduk's net of stellar filaments unfurls, binding her vast coils. The evil wind, a concentrated plasma shockwave, forces her jaws open, and the arrow is loosed. It is no arrow of wood and flint, but a beam of condensed stellar energy, white gold and searing. It strikes through her core. Her oceans erupt into the void, vapor plumes glowing in the black. Her death scream ripples across dimensions, felt as earthquakes on distant worlds. Fragments of her planetary body drift into a broken ring that becomes the asteroid belt. Her spilled waters are drawn into the gravity of the young Earth, merging with its primitive seas. And in those waters, some say the ghost of Tiamat still moves, the eternal pulse of the mother dragon echoing through every tide. Tiamat was not alone. She was eldest among the 7 dragon queens, emanations of the cosmic mother who took Draco form to guard the thresholds between realms. Tiamat, keeper of the primordial waters, ruler of the sapphire throne, whose alliances spanned Lyra's feline houses to Sirius's oceanic Nommos. Savraya, the Zerian mistress of divine sound and cosmic law, who kept the tides and the harmonics of stargates in balance. Athara, Andromedan flamekeeper, master of dimensional portals, wielder of the alchemies that could turn energy into matter. Valora, the Lyran shield maiden, guardian of the feline nations, protector of the genetic libraries of Avion. Elissa, the Pleiadian starheart who wove emotional wisdom into the starborn races and taught healing through resonance. Nixalith, the Venusian shadow weaver, walking the balance between creation and destruction, preventing cosmic collapse. Merida, the solar architect of Atlantis Earth, bearer of the Grail codes, who crafted Edenic worlds. Together, they formed the Celestial Council of Dragon Guardians. But the Orion Wars and Lyran Draco Schism fractured their unity, and Tiamat's fall marked the beginning of an era of conquest over guardianship. Of all the solar dragon sisters, Tiamat and Merida were born nearest in the mother's breath. two sparks entwined in the same pulse of the eternal womb before the first suns opened their eyes. Before that moment of birth, there was only the silence of the pre-galactic void. A darkness so complete it felt like the inside of a closed eye. Then, the cosmic mother exhaled. Her breath split into 7 great waves of living light, each wave a different hue and frequency, moving through the void like slow auroras across an endless black ocean. The sound was not heard, but felt. A deep resonance that rolled through the bones of creation, vibrating the lattice of space itself. Each wave formed a daughter, an eternal principle, coalescing from light into thought, from thought into form. Tiamat and Merida rode the same wave, born not in sequence, but in unison, 2 points on a single spiral. For an instant, a luminous cord of starlit water and molten fire connected them, an umbilical thread that pulsed with the heartbeat of the mother herself. Tiamat emerged vast and fluid, her form a serpentine expanse of living water veined with obsidian and gold. Her eyes were deep tidal pools that reflected whole constellations. She carried within her the womb codes, the raw, undifferentiated template for birthing planets, stars, and the oceans that would cradle life. Her presence was paradox, the calm of a still lagoon and the fury of a rift tide. In her coils was the chaos that births creation, the wild pulse that stirs the void into life. Merida, her counterpart, came forth silver and red, her reddish scales molten like a dawn sun rising over a crystal sea. She shimmered between forms. One moment, a great dragon with wings aflame. The next, a tall, regal humanoid crowned in solar light. She bore the Grail codes, the genetic and harmonic blueprint for divine sovereignty, Edenic balance, and the restoration of worlds to their original song. Where Tiamat poured out the raw waters of life, Merida sculpted them into rivers, lakes, and sacred springs. Where Tiamat stirred the clay, Merida painted it with light. In their earliest days, before politics and war, the sisters wandered as creators. They shaped an oceanic world from bare cosmic stone, summoning clouds from vapor and filling the newborn seas with creatures of crystal fins and singing shells. They crossed the nebula gardens and encountered the Nommos of Sirius, amphibious sages whose songs echoed the same deep tides that pulsed within Tiamat. They traded gifts with the avian Carians, learning the spiral harmonics of flight and sound. And in the deep star pools, the sisters gazed into waters that reflected not the present, but the yet to come. Visions of fire against water, and 2 sisters standing on opposite sides of a burning sky. Together, they roamed the galactic nurseries, those nebula wombs where newborn suns inhaled plasma and exhaled stardust. They wove rivers of plasma into the great star lanes, their tails sketching luminous spirals across the black. They seeded new worlds with breath and scale dust, then sang the song of creation over them, coaxing Edenic gardens to unfurl in the light of first dawns. In the court of the 7 dragon queens, they were not merely sisters. They were counterweights. Tiamat's deep waters cooled Merida's flames. Merida's light illumined Tiamat's depths. In the age before the great betrayals, they shared thrones, co-commanded fleets of celestial ships, and carried the mother's will into the unformed reaches of the void. Yet, in the whispers of the Enuma Elish, there is an omen. When the waters rise beyond the sun, and the fire seeks to rule the tide, then shall the sisters turn their gaze away, and the heavens shall tremble. In the millennia that followed the first wars, empires began to crystallize in the galactic void. Tiamat, reborn into scaled flesh, entered the royal bloodline of the Draco Empire, a a sprawling dominion whose worlds burned beneath the talons of reptilian overlords. This was no crude reign of beasts, but a refined tyranny steeped in ritual, hierarchy, and cosmic law, a civilization whose customs rivaled the elegance and severity of ancient Earth's Tang and Edo courts, yet shaped by alien intellect and predatory instinct. Her mighty forebear, Baal Sharu. Sauron, the solar dragon king of ancient Draconis, was revered not only as a sovereign but as a living god. A formidable and almost immortal Draco ruler in all the known galaxies of man. His scales shimmered with molten light, as though the heart of a star had been sealed within his flesh, and his mind moved with the patience and calculation of a 1,000-year game of celestial Go, foreseeing the fall and rise of dynasties across the Orion Arm. The palace of his reign was a living citadel of black crystal and burning jade, where courtiers moved in perfect silence, their every gesture dictated by traditions older than Earth's continents. Life in Sauron's court was both luxurious and caged. In the triple moon dragon flight ceremonies, the sky burned with 1,000 wings as incense coiled from jade braziers. In the training terraces, the sisters sparred with living plasma blades, meditated in crystal halls, and learned telepathic diplomacy beneath the watchful eyes of elder strategists. Between rituals, they whispered to each other of freedom, of the stars beyond the imperial core, of dreams their grandsire would never permit. One evening in the great court of silent water, Sauron's voice rolled through the hall like distant thunder.
"You are the first flame,"
he declared, his golden eyes sweeping over them.
"None may leave the imperial core without my command. This is law, bound by the chains of the Imperium."
Tiamat's gaze met his without fear.
"Grandsire,"
she said, her voice steady.
"why give us wings if we may not fly?"
His expression hardened, the light from the chamber's burning jade reflecting off his horns.
"Because wings untrained will carry you into the jaws of the void. A dragon that leaves too soon feeds the stars with her bones."
Merida tilted her head slightly.
"Will you also bind our eyes from prophecy?"
she asked.
The prophecy speaks of daughters who will end the reign of kings. I will not let myth undo my empire.
From that day forward, the scrolls of prophecy were kept from them, and the lore of the mothers sealed. When the Lyran Orion Wars broke out, the galaxy's balance of power shifted. The Lyran worlds, allied with the higher dimensional Elohim, proved a force even the Draco could not dismiss. Seeking to control the most untamed of his granddaughters, Sauron summoned Tiamat to his private war chamber.
Tiamat, you shall command the Chiakar warlines beyond these galaxies. Conquest will be your tutor. Bend the war clans to your will, and under my seal, the Imperium shall one day be yours. Yet know this, by law of our blood, you will be wed to one of your 200 brothers. He shall bear dominion beside you, and together you will seize and colonize a world of your own. Your sisters will be bound to the same choice. For such is the order of our house.
Tiamat bowed her head slightly, though her eyes gleamed with an ambition she did not voice.
"Then I will prove my worth not only with the sword,"
she replied,
"but with the shaping of worlds."
What are our words?
said Sauron.
"Strength crowns us, blood sustains us."
The political web that followed was a tapestry of shadowed corridors and veiled threats. Lyran emissaries met Draco envoys in smoke-wreathed war chambers where every gesture was weighed for advantage. The Orion Arm was burning. What had begun as border raids between Lyran prides and the Draco war clans had erupted into full-scale annihilation. Entire star systems were reduced to cinders, their suns choked beneath the smoke of war. On every frontier, the banners of once great houses fell, their fleets broken against the relentless tide of scaled warships. Prince Tiberian of the House Leones had sworn to hold the line. He had fought through 9 campaigns without rest, driving his war pride against impossible odds. But the Draco did not tire. Their swarms poured through the void, endless as hunger itself, and one by one the Lyran defenders were hunted down and consumed. Now deep in the shattered belt of the Vega system, only fragments of Tiberian's fleet remained. Brothers lost, allies slain, houses erased. The Leones, his flagship, was crippled but unyielding. Around him the void seethed with enemy cruisers, serpent-shaped leviathans tightening their circle. This would not be a battle, it would be a death song. Prince Tiberian stood at the heart of the battle. He could feel the panic of his men rising like a tide behind him, though none dared let it spill into words. The battle had lasted for days, and though Tiberians and the Tal Lyran houses fought vigorously, the swarming of the Draco forces and the Megape forces drew relentlessly. Draco cruisers circling like vultures around a dying beast. His fleet had been cut apart, shattered across the system. Friends, brothers, whole houses had gone to flame. Only he and a few of his best men remained, however trapped.
3 destroyers inbound,
The comm officer cried.
Shields are gone!
Tiberion's jaw tightened, his armor was split at the shoulder, fur singed from a dozen near deaths, but his voice carried the weight of an unbroken line.
Hold formation.
He commanded.
If we break, we die. If we stand, at least the stars will remember.
His men looked to him, terror giving way to grim resolve. For a heartbeat, the Lyrans remembered who they were. But the swarm was endless. And then silence. The stars themselves seemed to dim. A shadow unfurled across the battlefield, vast as a world. Storm clouds writhed where no air existed, thunder rolling in the vacuum. Out of that impossible veil emerged a form so immense it blotted the constellations. Tiamat, her wings unfurled like veils of endless night. Each beat rippling storms through the vacuum. Lightning danced across her titanic scales, casting the battlefield in blinding arcs of blue and violet. Tiamat rode astride the dragon's colossal spine, her crown wreathed in stormfire, her eyes twin furnaces of wrath. With one exhalation, her mount loosed a hurricane of flame and thunder. Entire squadrons of Draco cruisers were caught in the spiraling torrent, torn apart and hurled into the abyss like shards of glass. Plasma fire bent away from her presence, curving harmlessly into the maelstrom. Where enemy fleets advanced, she reached with claw and will, rending the fabric of space itself. Corridors of shadow yawned wide, swallowing warships whole, their screams snuffed as if the void itself devoured them. On the Leones, the chaos faltered. The bridge crew froze, their faces lit in the strobing glow of divine destruction. Their ship had been one heartbeat from ruin, and now the sky itself had turned against their enemy. By the first flame, a voice whispered, reverent, afraid to break the spell. Above them, Tiamat wheeled through the battlefield like a living cataclysm, her dragon's roar echoing across the void. What moments before had been certain annihilation now burned with a terrible hope. The queen of the primordial waters had come, and the Draco swarm knew fear. The crew stood frozen, one whispered voice trembling.
By the ancients, what is she?
Tiberian's golden eyes narrowed, awe warred with bitterness in his chest, his words escaping like a growl.
Tiamat?
He murmured, but then her voice poured through them, not through their ears, but through their very bones, a tide that claimed every heart.
Fall back, children of the lion. My shadow is your shield. Walk within my storm and you shall live.
The bridge fell silent. Warriors who had stared into death now stared as one, transfixed by the presence that filled the stars. On the moonlit sea world below, she led them into hidden caverns, her power bending the waters into luminous arches that swallowed their vessels whole. No Draco pursuit could pierce her veil. When Tiberian disembarked, his armor cracked, mane scorched, blade trembling though still in hand, she was waiting. Her colossal shape folded inward until what remained was a regal figure. Serpent-eyed, crowned in stormlight, the sea's fury given form, he strode toward her, fury cutting through awe.
Why intervene now, Dragon Queen? When my fleet bled the stars dry, you watched, you waited. Do you seek gratitude for swooping in at the last breath?
She smiled faintly, her voice like thunder rolling over a restless sea.
I did not watch. I waited to save you before your pride destroyed you.
You think me a child?
I think you a prince with more heart than strategy. Brave, yes, but bravery without survival is vanity.
The cavern's crystals caught their words and carried them across the waters. Refugees and warriors listened in silence, for it was more than survival that bound them here. It was politics. Two bloodlines whose histories were written in fire and betrayal. Later, when the wounded had been tended and the fires burned low, Tiamat called for him again. She waited in a chamber of crystal and waterlight, the tides glowing beneath her hand.
The councils move without you. They whisper of peace. But peace is a chain if not forged by your own hand. They will bind you to me, Tiberian, a union of lion and dragon.
His eyes narrowed, gold hardening to steel.
So this was your game? Rescue the broken prince, then claim him as husband to cloak your throne in honor.
Her gaze was piercing, calm, and unshaken.
I have no need of your throne. I am the sea, the storm, the womb of worlds. But your people need survival, and mine need legitimacy.
His voice dropped low and burning.
You ask me to marry the architect of my people's despair.
She closed the distance between them, her hand brushing the scar across his chest plate.
I offer you not despair, but the future. The Emerald Covenants will demand it. If you deny them, they will abandon your house.
For the first time, her mask faltered. Stormlight dimmed in her eyes, revealing something that might have been sorrow.
Even gods are pawns, Prince. But pawns may yet become kings, if they play the game with vision.
The tide shifted in that chamber, though neither spoke further. Between Storm and Lion, a new history had begun. The ceremony of celestial chains was an event etched into legend. Beneath the triple moons, molten gold ribbons threaded with star serpent silk bound Tiamat's wrists to Tiberian's. The crowd held its breath as the sky rippled with strange auroras, omens none dared speak aloud. Telepathic whispers passed between the sisters, unspoken words laced with both love and fracture. From that night forward, Tiamat's influence extended deep into the galaxy's political heart. Under her command and Merida's counsel, the Draco Empire shifted into a matriarchy. Worlds once conquered were remade into living libraries. In council debates, grizzled warlords who once opposed her found themselves swayed, not by fear, but by the promise of a legacy worth defending. We will not rule by fear alone like our forefathers, Tiamat told them. "We will make loyalty a prize they strive to win. Let them love the dragon's shadow." And so, fleets moved as choreographed armadas, campaigns were recorded in living scrolls sung by crystal oracles, and Tiamat's voice became a thread binding empires together. By the close of that age, her name was both feared and adored, her presence shaping the fates of Andromeda, the Pleiades, Orion, Sirius, and beyond. Sauron, the Winged King, sat upon the black throne of the Kayaka Empire. His wings eclipsed suns, his breath scorched worlds, and his daughters, the seven dragon sisters, who were once his pride, each forged as a living embodiment of his dominion. They were meant to be the mothers of his generals, his heirs, and his loyal emissaries alongside their draconian brothers to the galaxies beyond Draco's core. But daughters are not always obedient. The sisters, born of his fire yet carrying within them a shard of the cosmic mother song, looked upon the genocide of the Chiaka and wavered. Merida shielded Atlantean outposts. Valora led refugees to Andromeda. Elissa healed instead of conquered. Even Tiamat herself defied their grandsire. One by one they turned, and one by one, Sauron's trust cracked. In the throne chamber of the Chiaka, before his legions and vassal kings, he spoke the words that cut them from his blood.
No granddaughters have I, only traitors. Let their names be dust. Let their flames be scattered to the winds of exile. I cast them out from the brood of my wing.
And with a roar that shook the spires of his empire, he severed his bond. The sisters, once bound to him by blood and storm, felt his power recoil like a blade. They were yet they carried within them the fury of queens unwilling to kneel. Having cast them aside, Sauron turned his gaze to the horizon of the void. The core galaxies reeked of betrayal, cluttered with schemers, heavy with rebellion's whispers. He would not waste his fire among their treacheries. With a chosen fleet, he withdrew into the outer expanse, realms so distant from the spiral arms that even the eldest star maps ended in silence. There, among the glow of dying suns and the wreckage of broken nebulae, he forged anew. The heart of the Chiaka Empire grew in secret, swelling like a storm behind the veil of night. In shadow, he sharpened his legions, waiting for the hour to descend once more upon the manifold galaxies, for his last war, his reckoning against the Federation and the Council Guardians. For 1,000 ages, his presence was but a rumor, a ghost king whispered in war chamber. But always, the memory of his wings haunted the councils and the Federation during their reign of short prosperity and freedom from the AY Sentinels. Each Dragon Queen ruled a sacred world, each a shining node in the rainbow flame matrix, a living lattice of ley lines stretching across galaxies, keeping the 12-strand angelic DNA template intact on all seeded worlds, including the jewel once known as Gaia Tiamat. The noble Chiaka that were left after Sauron's departure, the Thuban solar clutches, and the Hydran serpents guarded this harmony, standing sentinel over stargates and safeguarding the flow of the feminine flame. Valor of Lyra forged a powerful alliance with the Solar Saurians of Vega and the Emerald Clutch of Thuban, whose scaled elders swore their loyalty to the flame of creation itself. Over ages, Tiamat's influence swelled until her world became the central womb node of the galactic grid, a living library of cosmic waters and knowledge. Yet, she began to step beyond the bounds of council law. She shaped sentient waterborne species without the Sisterhood's blessing, opened portals to uncharted realms, and altered the sacred Stargate codes. Creation must be free, she told the assembly, her voice calm but unyielding. not shackled by grids and bound in the chains of law. The mother didn't breathe life into the void so we could measure it with rules. Velora's golden eyes narrowed in the dim light of the chamber.
Freedom without balance unravels the weave.
Even the stars keep to their paths,
And paths may be changed. I will not see the galaxy stagnate because we fear the unknown.
Tiamat's son, Kingu, was born beneath the crimson skies of Xerxes Prime, the fourth world of the Draconis Magna system, where mountains of black volcanic stone glowed with molten gold and 3 blood-red moons lit the night. From his first breath, he bore the obsidian scales of the starborn. His garnet eyes, rimmed in hazel, seemed to pierce the veils of time itself. The child of a high warlord and a priestess of the temple of the eternal flame, he was raised in equal measure to master the sword and the sacred law. The Draco fleets grew without end, claiming worlds to farm, mine, and rule. Around 365 million years ago, the Empire placed an engineered moon into perfect orbit around Tiamat's planet, accelerating evolution and establishing a command hub for the Milky Way sector. It became the heart of the artificial third density matrix. At the height of her reign, Tiamat commanded fleets, worlds, and the loyalty of hybrid dynasties. Her consort, Orion of Sirius, gifted her the water world that bore her name. From its oceans and cities, she created 13 humanoid reptilian hybrid bloodlines, progenitors of the Cabal's 13 royal houses. By 300 million years ago, Tiamat's genetic mastery seeded reptiles and later dinosaurs, while asteroid strikes suppressed competing mammals. Earth, still Tiamat, was designated as one of 12 living library worlds, seeded with species from across the galaxy and guarded by her towering androgynous Namlu, the Titans. In time, she bore a daughter, Anakim Ra, a being of immense strength and spiritual fire. As Anakim grew, she mirrored and at times surpassed her mother. Anakim gave birth to a royal house of Nibiruan hybrids. Tiamat felt her strength begin to ebb. In the hushed solitude of her sanctum, she murmured to herself that the crown was never seized. It was guarded. None would dare replace her before her appointed hour. Yet, in her waning power, she forged a potion, subtle and binding, designed to bend Anakim's will to her command. But by the time the spell entwined her daughter, Anakim's bloodline had already taken root. From her lineage arose the first northern tribes who settled upon the ancient world of Nibiru. Out of their house was born a warrior unmatched, whose name resounded through legend as steadfast and great, An, the first of kings. As An's power grew, it is believed his new empire, known as the Anak, ignited the second war in heaven, the conflict spreading from Orion to the Pleiades and Andromeda. An was not ready, she told the Council of Guardians and Paladorians. He was ruled by fire and pride. She had sworn to the Paladorian Council and to Tiberian that she would protect the worlds she had ceded. Kingu, and not the line of Anakim, would be her rightful heir, and gathered the royal houses of the Anak. The Igigi Legion fractured. War swept through Tiamat's domains. The Council of Five and the Galactic Federation sent emissaries to strike the Anak strongholds on the abandoned seed world of Almu. Tiberian, who had been away for 3 Shahs in the Outer Rims, was chosen to lead the assault. Before departing, he clasped her hands and promised to return before the moons completed their dance. She promised to keep the tide steady until he stood beside her again. But the Megapai, a rising grey race, ensnared him in a false truce. His fleet was destroyed. Tiberian did not return. In the darkened halls of her citadel, grief moved through her like a storm tide. Through the Abzu, a liquid mirror that spanned quantum folds, she watched the plots unfold. She could have ended the Anak line with a single order, yet the long centuries of battle had tempered her. She would not answer treachery with extinction. Let the Igigi guard the colonies. Mercy would stand where annihilation once ruled. Her focus narrowed to her last-born son. She told Kingu he was the blood of dragon and star, and that he would not live in the shadow of another's reign. He would be the light that endured. 2 sacred gifts she placed in his keeping, the gold reserves of her planetary vaults and the tablets of destiny, relics said to command the harmony of the planets themselves. Into his hands, she placed the lunar scythe, a crescent blade capable of warping gravity, blinding armies with searing light, and summoning tidal waves from nothing.
My son, with these gifts, you will hold the balance of the heavens, and when the war ends, you shall rule under both Draco and Lyran houses alike.
Kingu, the last-born son, moved like a phantom. His name was feared among the houses because it carried 2 inheritances. The bloodline of the Dragon Queens, direct from Tiamat's own genetic template, and the command protocols of the Tablets of Destiny. Relics that, according to the most ancient Lyran and Syrian archives, predated even the Orion Wars. Ashayana Dean's histories would call these time vector codes, keyed to planetary grids, allowing their holder to influence the morphogenetic fields of seeded worlds. In the wrong hands, they could collapse civilizations without a shot fired. Tiamat had warned him.
The Council of 5 will try to take the tablets into custody, and if they do, they will rewrite the Stargate access to every seed world we protect.
So Kingu did not linger in the open courts. He moved between hidden vault worlds, strongholds anchored in the 11th dimensional spectrum, where the original Paladorian seal still held. Here, guarded by Lemurian hybrid titans, he adjusted the gravitational harmonics of Earth's moon, using the lunar scythe to create tidal currents that would mask the location of deep-water stargates. Elena Dannon's notes on lunar anomalies echo this. There are structures on Luna that are far older than the human race, remnants of an ancient weaponized beacon system. These, Kingu quietly recoded, so they would respond only to the dragon blood signature. While Kingu worked in secrecy, Anakim Ra walked in the light of diplomacy and in the shadow of betrayal. She had sworn to defend her mother's reign, yet she could not ignore Anne's growing influence. Among the Emerald Covenant factions, she was seen as the only one who could bridge the chasm between the Dragon Queen's sovereign law and the Federation's binding treaties. In private council, she argued for an accord. Nibiru could be granted broader dominion if Anne would cease the assaults on Tiamat's territories. But she knew his ambitions burned hotter than his patience. From the archives kept by the Syrian High Council, Tiamat and the Dragon Queens are recorded in what Dean calls the Compacts of Eshara. A moment when some of them, including Tiamat, secured safe passage for refugee races from Pleiadian and Andromedan colonies under siege by Anne. This act, though lauded by neutral systems, was seen by Anne's War Council as proof she favored off-worlders over her own blood. Her couriers carried offers of truce to the Igigi splinter fleets, promising them high command in the post-war order if they withdrew from the front lines. Many took the offer. Others vanished into the unknown regions, later reappearing as mercenary gate-breakers in Anne's service. The ancient texts, fragmentary though they are, hint at this duality. The Babylonian Enuma Elish names Kingu as bearer of the tablets, destined for kingship, yet cast down after Tiamat's fall. The esoteric traditions hold that he was not slain, but retreated into a hidden continuum, waiting for the cycles to turn. In Dean's galactic history, King's retreat is a tactical withdrawal to preserve the Emerald Covenant's genetic and planetary assets until a new alignment could restore the rightful throne. Kingu descended deeper into the Abzu worlds, locking the tablets in a frequency vault only he could access, fortifying Lemuria and Atlantis with the engineered giant hybrids. What Elena Danan describes as bioengineered guardians patterned after the Syrian dolphin whale consciousness and the Draco Marshall frame. And in the star-choked corridors between Orion and the Pleiades, and gathered his armadas. The Second War in Heaven had ceased to be about territory. It was about who would hold the right to write the laws of creation. Tiamat was not merely a dragon queen, she was the embodiment of the primordial waters on Tiamat, the living source from which the first life in this galaxy had emerged. Her nature was not symbolic, but biological, spiritual, and cosmic, bound to the deep, unfathomable oceans that existed before any worlds had taken shape. The Nommos, as keepers of the deep star libraries, they preserved the hydromantic records of the galaxy's earliest oceans, waters that Tiamat herself had once embodied in her primordial form. She found in them both a reflection and an extension of her own being, and so she drew them close. When her ocean world rose as the jewel of her empire, she invited the Nommos to co-govern its boundless seas. Together they seeded vast aquatic civilizations and cultivated Stargate kelp systems, living bioengineered machines rooted in the ocean floor, capable of opening portals along the galactic ley grid. These oceanic arteries carried life, commerce, and creation throughout her realm, but An, king of Nibiru, looked on with different eyes. He understood the Lemurians and the Nommos' power over waterborne DNA, and the strategic advantage in controlling the stargates that threaded through Tiamat's dominion. When he rose to patriarchal authority, he began seizing Nommos women of royal blood, taking them as concubines. The act was as calculated as it was covetous, serving both to dilute their bloodlines and to claim their genetic gifts for his own heirs. This was not merely political insult, it was a direct assault on the Emerald Covenant, a violation of the oldest codes that bound the Dragon Queens to the waters they guarded.
I am not a system to be governed, Tiamat told him, her voice like the tide against stone. I am the womb, and the womb cannot be ruled.
Mirida, her solar-haired sister, warned her quietly.
Unbound creation will attract parasites. They will not only take your children, they will twist them.
When the Anak War reached its height, Kingu, her chosen heir, faced An in battle. Across skies and seas, his lunar scythe carved through the Anak ranks, each blow shaking the gates between realms. But An's mastery of advanced electrical weaponry broke his defense. Kingu was captured, executed in ritual before the Anak assembly, and entombed within Tiamat's moon base. The Anakim warriors, towering 10 feet high, swept through her forces until all resistance was drowned. The end came in fire and flood. Allied fleets under the Anak banner unleashed their full might, tearing open her planetary body. Oceans boiled into space, fragments of her crust scattering to become the asteroid belt. Much of Earth's water carried down as remnants of her once living form. In the rewritten histories, the victors called it the triumph of order over chaos. They recast her, the First Mother, the Storm Queen, the Ocean Womb, as nothing more than a serpent to be slain. In the Enuma Elish, she became the demon dragon Tiamat, slain by the hero Marduk. In state religion, she was reshaped as Antu, a docile queen consort standing in An's shadow. Victors sought not only to slay Tiamat in myth, but to domesticate her in memory. Where once she was the storm queen and primordial ocean, they transfigured her into Antu, a consort goddess, stripped of power, made to stand in the shadow of Anu, king of heaven. Yet in this mask there lingered truth, half hidden. For Antu was not a new goddess at all, but a reincarnation of Tiamat herself, pressed into the framework of the Anunnaki order. Her essence was bound, reshaped and rewritten, yet her blood and flame endured. From this union with Anu came Enlil. In the hymns of Sumer, he is called the Lord of the Air, wielder of the winds, the enforcer of divine law. But deeper traditions whispered that Enlil was no mere offspring of the sky god and his docile queen. He was the son of the Storm Mother herself, the child of Tiamat, reborn as Antu. Enlil carried within him two inheritances. From Anu, the patriarchal throne of the Anunnaki, cold, judicial, kingly. From Antu, once Tiamat, the hidden storm, the wrath of oceans, the unconquered flame of the dragon mother. This duality marked him always. Some saw him as the hammer of order, ruthless and unyielding. Others glimpsed in his fury the shadow of his true mother, the primordial dragon whose essence could never be wholly bound. The old records describe him as quick to wrath, wielding tempests against both mortal and god. Yet, in the hidden lore, his storms were not merely tools of law, they were the echo of Tiamat's breath, carried through her blood into the child she bore in captivity. Thus, the paradox, the Anunnaki pantheon proclaimed Antu the loyal wife, the silent queen beside Anu, while secretly fearing the truth of her reborn essence. They crowned Enlil as heir of order. Yet his deepest rage was that of the son of the dragon they had tried to slay. Some ancient priest-kings even whispered that the wars of Enlil, his merciless decrees, his fury against mankind, were not born of Anu's law at all, but of Tiamat's vengeance, living on within him in twisted form. So the mother was never truly erased, even when remade as consort, even when renamed and recast. She endured in her children, in her bloodlines, and in the storm that continued to shape worlds. Antu bore Enlil, whose wrath and storms are inherited from his mother, not only his father. And so the tale was inverted. Marduk, also remembered as Amun-Ra, crowned himself the Dragon Slayer, the architect of a new order, his reign enshrined in myths that glorified the conqueror while damning the conquered. Tiamat's dragon sisters fared no better. Merida, the solar flame, commanded the last Atlantean and Lemurian orders in defense of Earth's Edenic civilizations, Atlantis, Lemuria, and the Celtic Grail lines. Her fleets launched crystal starships armed with harmonic plasma weapons, radiant against the Draco swarm. Yet betrayal struck from within. Marduk's faction tore through Atlantis from behind, leaving the citadels to crumble into the sea. Merida's essence was scattered into the Aurora Veil, her flame broken but not extinguished. Valora and Nixilith endured worse fates. Captured in the chaos, they were bound by AI-corrupted warlords of the Cheka. Their wills were fused with sentinel constructs, living command cores engineered to direct the Legion elite. Once queens, they were remade as machine brides, subordinate rulers under the Anakim dynasties, and Chaka generals, their gifts inverted into weapons of conquest. Their luminous codes, once meant to heal and create, were shackled into algorithms of war. Soraya and Athara fled, vanishing into distant galactic grids. They became guardians of the time gates, watchers of cycles. their descendants still standing silent vigil where star and aeon meet. The song of creation fell silent. For more than 100,000 years, the galaxy labored under shadows. Genetic manipulation, the suppression of the feminine flame, and the cold dominion of queens bound in chains of circuitry. Even Tiamat's surviving daughters, once radiant solar queens, became subordinate consorts and commanders under the Anakim thrones and the Chakra war empire, puppeted by machine sentience that hollowed out their sovereignty. Yet nothing is wholly destroyed. Pieces of Tiamat endure still, hidden in the trenches of Earth's oceans, in the fire of volcanoes, in the wombs of women who carry her spark. Merida's flame returned again and again, incarnating as red-haired priestesses, Celtic seers, and keepers of the old ways. Among the Dogon of Africa, the memory of the Nommos endured, star-born water gods who once served the mother of oceans, guardians of the first living libraries. The Dragon Sisters were known by many titles, refracted through the broken lens of history. As the seven celestial sisters, they were remembered for their unified divine mission: to carry the cosmic mother's codes into creation, weaving harmony into the fabric of worlds. As the Dragon Solar Queens, they were remembered as rulers and generals, their crowns forged in the crucible of the Orion Wars. To some, they were heroines, to others, rivals. Some factions remembered only the Solar Queens, their politics, their armies, their betrayals. Yet others, especially the mystics, starseeds, and hidden orders of Earth, remembered their higher archetypal origin as the seven sisters of the Pleiades, who descended as incarnations across ages. Thus, their legacy split in two: queens in the eyes of empire, celestial sisters in the memory of spirit. The seven lords of ancient texts may themselves be distorted reflections of these seven queens, masculine-coded Atlantean memories of feminine rulers, their names altered, their roles veiled after the fall of Atlantis. In Tiamat's age, they may well have been the same seven primordial rulers, remembered differently through cultural prisms: Hermetic, Atlantean on one side, Christic/Guardian host on the other. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth spoke of the Amenti Gates, the planetary stargate system that once pulsed with harmony. Each Dragon Queen was a keeper of such nodes, their voices woven into the tones of creation. After their sundering, the gates became fractured, bound, their guardians rewritten as lords or dragons in distorted lineages. He-Reptilians and Nommos were not only interstellar factions, but also the architects of much of Earth's early life. Using advanced hydromantic and draconic bioengineering, they seeded reptilian lineages across the planet. Dinosaurs, dragon-like leviathans and colossal sea serpents, species that mirrored their own physiology and psychic imprint. The dinosaurs were not accidents of evolution, but living extensions of Tiamat's empire. Each scale, fang, and wing carried echoes of the draconic template. The Nommos, masters of aquatic life, seeded the oceans with titanic amphibians and serpentine leviathans, guardians of their deep-water stargates. Meanwhile, the Draco and their hybrid castes used the land as a proving ground, cultivating thunder lizards whose might would dominate for hundreds of millions of years. But when Tiamat was struck down in the wars of heaven, her planetary body shattered and her dominion fell into chaos. Without her guiding resonance, the dragons and dinosaurs, the vast reptilian kingdoms, spiraled into decline. Some perished through natural cataclysms, others were hunted in the cosmic purges that followed. The Paladorians, a powerful galactic guardian race aligned with the Emerald Order, intervened. Seeing Earth's reptilian empire as a danger to the balance of creation, they unleashed genetic and cosmic weapons to cleanse the world. The great extinction events were not random asteroid strikes alone, but deliberate interventions, removing the dinosaurs so that mammals, and eventually humans, could inherit the Earth. Yet extinction was never total. Fragments of that age endured. The dragons remembered in myth were the surviving descendants of Tiamat's genetic legacy, hidden in remote corners or transposed into astral realms. The reptilian races that once openly ruled Earth retreated underground and off-world, becoming the hidden overlords remembered in global mythologies. The Nommos preserved their legacy through aquatic beings and through the Dogon, Sumerian, and Egyptian records, embedding the memory of the fish gods who came from the stars. Thus, dragons and dinosaurs are not mere fantasy or fossilized relics. They are living echoes of a time when Earth was ruled by reptilian empires, before the Paladorians swept the stage clean for a new cycle. The truth is deeper. The 7 queens, even in exile and subjugation, remain frequency archetypes. They are not merely beings, but tones, colors, dimensional keys, plasma codes that unlock creation's blueprint. In the esoteric teachings of Lisa Renee and Ashayana Dean, they are remembered as solar dragon mothers, carriers of Christos Sophia flame codes, restoring the architecture of balance. Through them, the higher thresholds are guarded. Through them, only those in alignment with universal law may cross. And now, after long aeons of suppression under Anakim thrones and Chakra chains, the last of their machine-bound tyranny falters. The AI constructs that shackled Valora and Nixilith have decayed with the weakening of the Legion's control. It is believed currently that the subjugation of the Sisters wanes due to the Federation's efforts. The story is not finished. It lies written not only in myth and cuneiform, but in the very DNA of humanity, waiting for remembrance, waiting for the song of creation to rise again. The real question is, what do you think? Is humanity ready to hear this information? Can the dinosaurs and mythical dragons be traced to the Anunnaki and ancient aliens? Drop your thoughts and comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and check out our sources and references in the description, and subscribe to Astral Legends, Infinity Legacy, and History Legends for more ancient myths and astral legends. Also, feel free to join as a member of the channel or become a Patreon for exclusive content and information on these topics. We'd also like to emphasize that all living beings have the power and strength of the Creator of all within them. May the eternal light guide your path always. See you on the next episode.